I'm about to do what I do best. Teach my family while destroying my enemies. So as usual, these people sticking their nose in our business. This funny face goofy said the Blackfeet have always been in Montana and Canada only. LOL, the Blackfoot aren't from the South. Then you got this $5 invader coming over here talking about the Halawa Saponi aren't Blackfoot, you dumb fuck. I'm in Virginia right now. Where you at? I never said the Halawa Saponi are Blackfoot, but I bet you if you come to Florida, I make you eat those words, redneck. Okay, now this beautiful soul right here is my wife's grandmother, and she told her that she's Blackfoot. And truth be told, a couple years, I came across this, and I was helping my wife do research on her genealogy. And me being knowledgeable in the tribes, I'm like, there's no Blackfoot in the South or whatever. But I spoke out of turn. So, along in my research, this is what I found. What's important to note also is that most of my wife's most ancient ancestry comes from that of North Carolina and Virginia on all sides of her lineages. Not saying that all of her lineages are Blackfoot or the tribes that were called Blackfoot in these regions. But it's important to keep in mind and what we're about to indulge in. Now, before we get into the text, I just wanted to show you a couple of the American Indian families and peoples that are still, closely resembles the description of the primary sources of the first contact people. To be fully transparent today, these tribes come in all shades and phenotypes because of the mixing due to the colonizers. But not everyone mixed with the invaders, so you will still find a lot of people that still look like the ancestors of them that were described by the initial invaders. Then you got more North Carolina and Virginia Indians, and this last one is William Peterford of the Saponi Indians. Now, I couldn't find the information that I ran across a couple years ago just of yet, but I did run across this, and this should bring clarity for those who, don't know about this history. The other Blackfoot, enigmatic Blackfoot identifications east of the Mississippi, and the Piedmont Samoan of Virginia and North Carolina. Now at top you can see it's a translation kind of broken down of where Blackfoot comes from in that region, right? Tutelo is a tribe of that region that closely associates or would be considered one of the tribes as Blackfoot. Now in Sissipaha, a former small tribe of North Carolina, presumably Samoan, from their alliance and associations with known Samoan tribes, they must have been an important tribe at one time, as Haw River, chief head stream of Cape Fear River, derives its name from them, and the site of their former village, known in 1728 as High Old Fields, was noted as the largest body of fertile land in all of that region. It was probably situated about present Saxapaha on Haw River in the lower part of Alamis County, North Carolina. If this huge settlement in the Haw River Valley was called Asa Asipahayi and the English heard it, they would likely slur all the double vowels English speakers have trouble pronouncing the double vowels common to native languages. They also have difficulty accenting even numbered syllables in the way native languages are generally spoken. It's quite likely they'll drop the initial I sound given those assumptions. So that I'm not too long-winded, I'm only going to touch on the most important parts to me to get across my point, but you can pause and read the entirety of it. So if you did your genealogy like me and others, you will know for a lot of us, our people were actual farmers and not just sharecroppers and slaves and the narratives they like to push, but we own our actual farms. As it reads, it also makes sense as a name when you consider that the Haw River Valley is the largest fertile plain in the region. The people there were great prosperous farmers. Native farmers used slash and burn agriculture, hence the emphasis on blackened feet. That's where their prosperity came from. The crux of their economy. From archaeological evidence, they were a very dense population. The name Blackfoot would have then evoked memories of a much kinder and gentler past, something a people facing chaos and oblivion would have treasured. Perhaps that's why the name have been preserved in so many families for the past 300 years. The word Blackfoot has been carried in a small but distinct group of families that has derived east of the Mississippi and who could have no logical connection to the Blackfoot nation of the plains. Then it goes on, I would like to demonstrate that there is a distinct pattern of surnames and origins to this group, and that they hark back to an historic group of tribes by the way of much intriguing evidence. She, as in the author of this article, goes on to say, I'm in communication at this point with approximately 500 families with this identification. This incidence of surnames and locations that coincide with Eastern Samoan Indian families of the North Carolina and Virginia and Piedmont is very high. For example, in a 6-week period between December 16th, 2002 and February 4th, 2003, I heard from 18 different people with this Blackfoot ID in their families. Of them, 50% had names which occur among families believed or known to be Virginia/North Carolina Piedmont Siouan descended. 81% had surnames associated with Virginia, North Carolina families believed or known to be Indian descended. 31% named these ancestors' place of origin as Virginia or North Carolina. 93% were from the states frequently mentioned by Piedmont Siouan researchers as migration paths for Piedmont Siouan descendants, such as Ohio, West Virginia, Tennessee, Indiana, South Carolina, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Alabama, Mississippi, Pennsylvania, and Illinois. There have been objections raised to that theory that the Blackfoot ID in families deriving east of the Mississippi are Eastern Siouan. This objection has an alternate theory that this ID is the result of the popularity of the Western Siksika Blackfoot performers in the Wild West shows of the 1890s, making their tribal name a household word. Nobody knew nothing about them people. So the theory goes, families who had either native blood that they knew nothing about but wanted to give a name to, or families with some degree of African blood that they was trying to disavow borrowed the name Blackfoot. Please dodge the hijack, because we know that shit cap. We got genealogical records to prove everything. As she goes on to say, if this were the case, then there would be a geographical source traceable to the 1890s. With these families, however, the geographical sources clearly traces back to colonial days, with many of these Blackfoot ID'd families migrating to other states as early as the 1740s. Y'all can pause and read this page. It does give a little bit more insight. Then she goes on to say, let me deal chronologically with what's known about the village or tribe, the Sisapaha. I believe this translates as Blackfoot. The Sisapaha are associated with the Shakora and Eno branches of the Piedmont Siouan family or confederation of tribes. Please pause and read the rest. You can pause and read this too, but you see there at the bottom, it says about them joining in with the Catawba. During the Fort Christiana period, Governor Spotsworth of Virginia, for his convenience, dubbed all the Samoan tribes as Saponi. That and the word Tutelo dominated the naming of these people in historical references from then on. For that reason, we will refer to the Eastern Piedmont Samoan as Saponi in most of the following. Please pause and read this. This is telling you about the Saponi and Tutelo voyages up north. Please pause and read this too. This is a little bit more history about the Saponi. Please pause and read this part too. It is important. But I think by now I have made my point that Blackfoot Indians did exist in the South, and when my people speak of that, and the elders speak on that, they know what they're talking about. This is dedicated to this beautiful soul, and may she continue to rest in peace. Oh yeah, just in case y'all forgot, we are the original. Watch this.
Pigmentation to detect those mutations. By chance, the light skin colored fish that I used for that research also taught us a lot about how humans became lighter skinned.
What Professor Chang discovered was perhaps one of the most important genetic mutations ever found. A single change among literally billions of coded instructions within zebrafish DNA that reduced black pigment from their stripes. Soon after, this identical genetic mutation was found in fair-skinned Europeans.
There was a magic moment in this research. When I got back the results that showed that the number and the size and the amount of pigment in the light-skinned zebrafish were all diminished, and the same thing happened in humans. When I opened the textbook and saw that same thing, I began to sweat. Not only did light-skinned people evolve from black-skinned people, but lighter-skinned people, whether they're European or whether they're Asian, like me, were actually mutants of the dark-skinned people.